Welcome to Solutions Rising. I'm Rachel Branch. I am honored on this program to welcome Scott Berglund, and we are going to talk about healthcare and housing, two very interconnected topics. Scott and I both have had very serious life-threatening illnesses and recovered. We are going to talk about that and talk about the interconnection between healthcare and one's other very serious life-threatening circumstance, housing. We are also going to talk about food and the environment, where our food comes from and its impact on our health, and what I call climate catastrophe. All of these topics are affecting each and every one of our lives and those of our children and grandchildren. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Rachel, for having me on today.
I am so delighted that you came to Solutions Rising and agreed to be a guest.
Yes.
Please tell our audience whatever you would like about your background.
Was a sales professional for 25 plus years. I've seen all different parts of Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, all up and down the East Coast. I'm also a family man. I've been married for 10 years to my wonderful wife, Christy, and I have two wonderful children, 6 and 4, Archie and Connor.
Little ones.
Yes.
Little ones.
Yes. They definitely keep us busy.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
A lot of energy.
A lot of energy. There's a lot of time spent with them, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Would you like to talk a little bit about your health? I mean, you don't have to
Yeah.
tell the tale, whatever you like.
No, that's fine. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. Around 2017, I had a parathyroid issue, which was elevating my calcium. My doctor said I should go and have it looked at. So during their examination, they also found a nodule on my thyroid, which they said they had to remove. So I beat that. There was no treatment afterwards. Everything looked good. And then last year, around August, July, I was telling my primary I was having some pain in both my kidneys. And she said, hey, it's probably just kidney stones, but you should go see a urologist. So I did. And they did an ultrasound and verified I did have kidney stones. But when I went for the CAT scan, they just wanted to see how big the stones actually were. They found a mass in my kidney, which happened to be cancerous. They found out when they had cut it out.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we have 2 kidneys.
Yeah, that's right. So I still have the kidney. They just kind of just cut around.
Oh, they didn't have to take the whole.
No, they didn't have to take the whole thing. So, and I'm currently under preventative treatment now. So no chemo, but we're using a Keytruda treatment.
The what treatment?
Keytruda.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's a therapy where it uses your immune system. To
I was just going to say, is it immune therapy?
Yeah, yep.
Because those are the kinds of things in preventive care, as we're talking about health. I really think preventive care is really important.
Yep.
And I'm a big supporter of Dr. Jarvis, an MD doctor from Vermont, who wrote a book that was published in 1958 called Folk Medicine, and it's about apple cider vinegar and honey. I should get you that book.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm now buying up some of them for different people, but it's about apple cider vinegar and honey. And he watched animals and people and the effect of what we need in our body and animals for healthy. It's an amazing story. And my mother had this book, and so I took it and I've gone by it pretty much most of my life. But recently, it's interesting that you had a thyroid problem, because I have just twice recently had a reaction being allergic to the levothyroxine, and I thought I was going to have a stroke or heart attack.
Wow.
And in the middle of the night, sweating and my heart palpitating and headache, and scared me. And we dropped the dosage, and it happened again. And now they're looking at something. I'm going to have an EKG and a heart monitor. But the one thing, levothyroxine's and everything. And I didn't know all these years. I think I've been taking it since 1990. I didn't know there were additives and color, and And I don't know why those are in medications we're taking.
Yeah.
But, they want to put me on one that could have heart implications. Well, I'm probably not going to do that.
Yeah.
But there are ways with apple cider vinegar to strengthen your thyroid.
Mm-hmm.
And my best friend had parathyroid cancer and had to have it taken out. She said, it's quite amazing. And of course, as you and I know, this is a national concern, and it's about the environment, and I'll let you talk about wherever you want to go with how you feel about our local, national, states in environmentally.
Well, I'm pretty concerned about overall with PFAS, and as I start digging more into this stuff, and this region particularly had a lot of different chemicals just because of the factories and the plants.
Yeah.
As research develops, we start finding out that a lot of the stuff is environmental, whether it's kidney cancer or thyroid.
Yep.
And right now, I think one of the hot topics is PFAS because it is a forever chemical. And there's only very few ways you can actually get rid of the PFAS. I know one of the reasons why I don't talk a lot about it is because it's in a lot of different products that we use.
It's in everything.
It's in everything. It's hard to get rid of. And until we really start having some more data and some more research, there's not going to be, I feel, anybody that's going to come out with a solution until it becomes more of a national issue.
And I think some towns are also looking at this. I'm in touch with Pat Elder from Maryland, and he's militarypoisons.org, and I've done a Solutions Rising program with him. He's gone around the world looking at PFAS, and a lot of it's coming out of our military bases. And my friend that I just talked about, who lives in Maryland, she's had multiple cancers. She's okay now, but I have no question that it probably came from Fort Detrick. But there are military people who have been affected by PFAS and the effects of Agent Orange, and pretty serious.
Yeah, even our firefighters have
Yes.
had some cancer because the foam that they use to put out the fires has PFAS in it.
Yeah.
And some of the local restaurants over at the Hairpin Turn is having a big problem.
The Golden Eagle?
Golden Eagle, yeah. With
Great restaurant.
It is. And the thing is, they had a huge PFAS problem because they had an accident where they had to use it, and now that whole area is contaminated. And it's very concerning because we know, like we were saying, that a lot of the stuff is environmental. And I think there needs to be more of a push on a national level to ban these type of chemicals because they're not good. And also circle back on something you mentioned with the levothyroxine and the dyes and things like that. It's very concerning today that we're using petroleum-based dyes and things like that when we know that they're not good. We know that red dye, number 40, I believe, and some of the yellow dyes are not good. And the thing that frustrates me is that in other countries they're banned, such as Canada and UK, and they can simply make these dyes with a sweet potato, for an example, and we still allow some of these things to be put into our foods. Now, I know that on a national level here in America, there has been a push by the health department, the Department of Health, to ban some of these dyes because we do know they do cause cancer, and we should ban them. Also, a lot of the stuff we eat today has like 30 ingredients. When you start looking at the back of some of the packages of our overseas partners, they don't have these things. They have 4, maybe 5, ingredients. And that's because they've had the research long before we have that says when you put these type of chemicals in there, you're going to get cancer, you're going to get sick.
And their names on the back of those packages, if you don't read them, you can't even hardly say the name of what's in that. But environmentally too, I think of my grandmother and grandfather. Both sides of my family had farms and, grew their own vegetables. So you're getting local vegetables, and of course we all now want organic if we can get it, and local vegetables. It's really healthy. But going back to, you have big corporations that are buying up farms, and then you have the antibiotics, and especially for pregnant women and babies that are being born, the antibiotics, I would surmise that they are causing breast cancer and
Mm-hmm.
cancer in babies, and it's horrifying
Mm-hmm.
that corporations can do mass farming, and they're killing our farmers
Mm-hmm.
at the farms. It's good to see the opposite coming out, to see farms that are organic and are local, and of course I try to buy locally if I can.
Yeah,
And
so do I. Yeah,
yeah.
we can for sure.
In the farmers markets.
Yeah, and I think there's more of a connection because you're using local groups, supporting local farmers. I know not everybody can. My suggestion is if you can't use local farming, make sure you're reading the back of packages. Try to find out where the meat is sourced. Now they have this whole thing where they want to 3D print meat and cloning meat and all this other stuff, but the technology is so crazy. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I want to eat meat from a lab. Everything.
Ooh, I wouldn't.
And you know what? There's some stuff out there that suggests that you may be eating it today and you don't even know it. And it's just so crazy that we don't have these disclaimers on this package that says, hey, you know what? This meat may be cloned or they might be 3D printed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to have on a national level have that stuff disclosed to us. The other
Absolutely necessary.
Yeah, because that way consumers can make an informed choice.
Oh yes, an informed choice. And of course, because I lived in Bridgeport, Connecticut for 23 years, and I went to this, at the time, vegetarian restaurant and feminist bookstore since 1980. And the owners of that, it's called Blood Room, right near the Long Island Sound, changed my whole view. And I'm like 99% vegetarian. I cheat a little.
Yeah, of course. You gotta have something a little every once
Oh
in a while,
yes,
right?
yes. But, it's now gone vegan. I'm not really vegan, but a lot. And I'm really, really watching what I eat, especially with this latest scare. And I've had cancer scares. I've had, the early days for women, and you're too young to know this, but the early birth control pills were loaded with estrogen. And I almost had a stroke at 23 years old on that. And part of it was my thyroid. And there were doctors, there was one doctor put me on Zoloft when it was my thyroid. And I didn't know that your thyroid, of course you probably know a lot more about it now, it affects every part of your body.
Yeah, there's a lot of chemicals and things that, we could talk about the thyroid forever. There's a lot of hormones and things that it controls. My biggest concern is that a lot of those chemicals are affecting the thyroid. They are affecting and putting extra strain on our kidneys and our bodies in general. I mean, if you buy a bag of Doritos, you're basically buying plastic in a bag. It's no longer what its original form was, and we're starting. There's other groups out there like carnivore groups, keto groups, vegetarian groups are coming out there and starting to do more research on this. The problem is there's a lot of misinformation. A lot of that's directed because there's companies who their investments are all in, snacks. In the snack industries, probably $1 trillion industry if you add up everything that's out there.
Oh yeah, and of course, the pushback. Fossil fuels is another one. I'm a climate catastrophe fighter and been fighting it. And fossil fuels, the danger of fossil fuels, and then to push gas as a clean energy. There's methane, which is even worse than carbonated fossil fuels. It is just amazing, the large corporations that are trying to push us back. I didn't realize it, but they're like 40%. I don't know if it's the world or the United States, is now solar and wind. And I don't know if you could stop that, but we need that if we're going to save our world. And that affects the pushback on that, again, environmentally. Let you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're still in the early stages of a lot of that technology. I think we still need fossil fuels. However, I think the biggest pushback with solar and even electric cars, for an example, electric cars, that the range isn't good. The batteries suffer under winter conditions. And I know that there's some startups and other companies are really trying to do something better than lithium battery. Lithium battery's been around for a very long time, and we just need a better cell, let's say, that can do more, can charge faster. I think that's part of the reason why we really haven't taken to the electric cars, is that for somebody like me to go to Maine in 7 hours and to try to charge 4 or 5 times, it would take me a lot longer to get up there, not to mention the extreme weather up there. So my hope is that the technology will get better over time.
But then you also have to look at the batteries and see what kind of energy is being used to recharge the batteries. And those who want to push back are talking about nuclear power plants, when we still don't have to wait a way to take care of the, oh, I forgot, the, what is it, the chemical in power, in nuclear plants, the rods.
Yeah, you
that
talk
can't-
about lithium, or no, not lithium.
The rods that cannot, we haven't even got a place to put them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, uranium.
Thank
Uranium
you.
is the one that you're looking at. Lithium. We're talking about batteries, and I mean, there's this argument that nuclear is a little bit better because we're not putting anything in the atmosphere. But then, what do you do with the waste? The newer nuclear power plants for the building are going to be a lot smaller and a lot more efficient, so you won't need the same amount of material, which is good. However, there's a lot of new technologies coming out. I mean, we've had, I think, Honda or one of the Japanese companies out there have had some hydrogen engines running and other things. So there's a lot of different cool technology coming out. I'm just trying to figure out which one's going to rise above the rest. I think our biggest challenge is let's find some kind of technology where we're not digging out the earth for lithium, because that leaves a bad carbon footprint. Let's find something that charges fast, something that's not going to require a lot of earth material, and something that when we dispose of it, because it's the other thing, what do we do with the lithium batteries and the solar panels that are used? Those have bad chemicals as well in them. So now, we're kind of replacing one technology that we want to get rid of, like nuclear, because of the rods, but now we have a whole set of other problems that we got to deal with the old solar panels and the old batteries, which is about as bad as the nuclear waste. So we have a lot to figure out, and I'm hopeful that the technology in the next 20 years will change and we'll be able to get away from fossil fuels and power things more as like a hybrid or something.
And I believe we have to
Mm-hmm.
get away from it. But I also think the pushback to solar energy and wind power, which are definitely solutions to part of this, has really held it up. And of course, I go back to 1997, but also did over 30 programs. And one of them, Chris Derby-Kilfoyle, who was founder of Berkshire Photovoltaics, did, it took me a long time to say that word, Chris did we did a lot of shows on explaining solar energy, and his company has been off the grid since 1985, and those were wonderful programs with him that I did it for the Berkshire Community Television. And Chris, he retired his company in the spring, and I actually went back and re-showed a program that we had done in 2013. But I do think there is, all around the world and locally, there are people that are finding solutions, and these will, I believe you have to work locally, most important,
Right.
and push up grassroots, and coming up is like really important. But I think that, like, I know you're from North Adams, and when you're in, I go back to Arnold Printworks. My great-grandfather was treasurer, then president. My grandfather was treasurer of Sprague Electric Company. Sprague Electric Company, they had to tear down a whole area in North Adams because of the cancer cluster. This is over off West Main Street. So, when they did investigations, from what I understand within, and oh no, there's not. If I had been there, I would have been fighting the company that my family was very much associated with. But yes, the hardest part is to find out the truth and then stand up against it. And that a lot of truth is coming out and has to keep coming out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think we'll heal as a country unless we can tell the truth about our history. And we could segue from this right into all of this that we're talking about affects housing and people losing their housing. I was one of the people who was really close to eviction because of living in North Adams and a mistake that the owners made, and instead of correcting it, they threatened me with eviction, and I was served. I mean, I'm old North Adams, founding family, and if it could happen to me, it could happen to anyone. And for the elderly and disabled, it's very hard. I could speak up because at the time I was a candidate for mayor, but it's very hard for people to speak up because of the retaliation. And it's serious retaliation. So that's why I live in Dalton now, and I have family members buried in the Dalton Cemetery here, my fifth great-grandfather. So there's a lot of history, and it's not just indicative of North Adams. There's a lot of cities and towns that really are not paying attention to the needs of the people that live there. And one of the things I talked about years ago and continue to, you cannot keep kicking the can down the road. Problems are not going to go away. They have to be addressed. And housing is one of the very serious problems. And I'll let you talk about locally and the Commonwealth and your views on housing. And one of the things gentrification is one of the topics that I talked about in those campaigns. So you go wherever you want.
Okay. Yeah. Certainly, senior housing is a big issue, and it's not going to go away. Obviously, you said kicking the can down the road. That's not going to solve it. You know, as I talk to residents that are seniors, you know, their biggest concern is they can't afford the taxes, and this is not a North Adams problem. This is goes throughout the region, you know, all across the country. You know, the fact that taxes keep rising, and these seniors have built these cities by paying in their houses, paying taxes all these years, and you know, they just want to enjoy their final years and rest and relax, and not have to worry about another payment is very concerning to me, because a lot of them are afraid they're going to get kicked out or lose their house. And I want to make it perfectly clear that I don't want any senior to lose their house, you know, because seniors, just like a lot of us, are people too. You know, they have a right to feel secure. They have a right to have a home that they can go to. They have a right to feel warmth in their home, and making sure that they have at least the very basic needs to survive. And a lot of these seniors feel like they're going to be tossed out of their homes. They're going to be on the street. And with the lack of housing, where do you go? And one of the questions that that came up for seniors by a senior is, hey, when I downsize, where do I go?
Yes.
There is no place to go. So a lot of these seniors, what they're doing is they're selling their homes because you just can't take care of them, or just don't want to take care of them anymore, because their family is shrunk, and they're moving in with their family members because they don't have any place to go. I think part of the solution, or I should say no part of the solution, is we have, just not North Adams in general, but all over the region, we have a lot
across the country.
Yeah, a lot of abandoned houses, or things have gone disrepair, or maybe somebody lost interest in a project. Those are some of the things we really should look into and help revive those. Let's find out which ones are still good and which ones still or need to come down. And then with that, let's make a solution, so we have a solution for seniors and the disabled people.
One of the things I talked about years ago is, maybe to make in-law or family elderly converting garages that are not being used. You put a bathroom in, and you can make it secure, but they're near their family, but they have the independence of their home. I was very concerned, still concerned about gentrification. And the income inequality ties into this, and I mean, I don't know if we're at the highest homeless rate across the country, but it is huge. And if you've got income inequality that just keeps bigger and bigger and wider, I don't know what these people who are billionaires are thinking. These neighbors and people that we know, these are our communities. And one of the things that I look at, I keep hearing, we need more housing, single family homes built. Well, I'd rather see rehabilitation, not the single family homes, that's lovely, but I keep hearing it costs too much for rehabilitation, but you could co-op homes. And this is a partnership between governments and banks and and everyday people being to have a stake in where they live. And you can't legislate people in whatever position of power to care about people. But those are some of the solutions. But if somebody's in, just say, New York City, and they want to move to a small town, like in the Berkshires, I think a lot of people in the Berkshires don't really know how blessed they are. But to come into a town and you could sell $1 million, $2 million condo or co-op or whatever in a big city, and you could come to a little town like Adams or North Adams and buy a home for $100,000 or $200,000. Geez, you made 8 or 9 or more, and that of course brings the assessment up, and it brings the taxes up, and there you are. People who want to stay in their homes for the rest of their life cannot. So I'll have you speak to that, and little houses.
Yeah,
that's one of the solutions.
I think the ADUs and some of the tiny houses may be a good fit for seniors.
Sure.
I certainly talked to a senior who says, I'm selling my house, but there's no place to go. So a bunch of my girlfriends that are all selling their house, we're going to buy a plot of land and put some ADUs on there. And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds like a solution, and we can make sure they're handicap accessible. And there's a lot of things we can do now with tiny houses. I think one of the things during the COVID era, people were trying to downsize and move to other places, but they didn't necessarily want to build a huge house. So they would take it on the road and buy a plot of land and have a little tiny house. And I think that's kind of sparked some interest in some of the senior communities saying, hey, you know what? I can get a smaller house as long as I don't have to climb up on a bunk. Let's make it more accessible for seniors. That's definitely one of the solutions, I feel. And a lot of these houses that are condemned can come down and easily fit a couple of ADUs or tiny houses. And that I think would be lovely for seniors because the taxes would be a lot lower. You can certainly share the tax burden because it's one plot of land with 2 tiny houses on it. So there's a lot of solutions, but I think it's more of a community coming together and figure out the problem. We can't expect government to fix every single problem we have. But
that's why I said partnerships.
Yeah. But we can engage in the community and say, hey, we have this problem. And I know that we can fix it. And that's one of the big things when I talk with seniors and other people. This problem isn't just a one-person problem. This is a community problem. And if we can get together, and we don't know, I say this too, we don't always have to agree. But putting those ideas out there will certainly spark some ideas and things that will eventually work themselves out, and we'll have a solution. And I think that's one of the things that I see a lack of. There's not a lot of communication. You have the seniors over here where government's making a decision not necessarily for the senior population. It's for the future generation, which is fine. We can certainly make plans for the future generation, but we should also take care of the generation that still lives here, which is the seniors
solve the problems
and the
right
disabled.
in front of you. And I think Detroit, those cities, great cities that lost their manufacturing and the cars. Detroit was a city that was quite devastated, and they built I think it's a cooperative community with small houses. You want people to have an investment and ownership a stake in the game.
Yeah.
And that's one to look for. And of course, we had this wonderful in North Adams that's now in Adams, B&B, little houses. But everything is going up, and the cost of everything. And how do those of us who are everyday people afford it?
Right. Yeah.
Where is the equity?
Well, that's
the equality.
Yeah, that's the problem we have to solve. And again, I think that goes back to possibly smaller communities. I'll give you an example. Up in North Adams, there's a place called Wheel Estate, which I've visited, and it's a smaller community of people. And as I
Wheel Estate.
Yeah, Wheel Estate.
Sure.
Yeah, and as I talk to people and ask them about their experiences and things like that, one of the things I find is that they're a very tight community. Everybody knows one another. They have a community room, and I look at the park. I'm like, wow, this is a really nice park, and that's because it's a community that owns it and they care about it. And we can duplicate that, maybe even on a smaller scale. We could have some success in finding some better housing situations for seniors and the disabled.
And mobile, that was one of the places I looked at it to live in. Mobile homes, prefab homes, those are easily erectable or be able to purchase them. Again, it also takes a committed management that is not, once again, going to gorge the people who are living there. I'm not talking about real estate. But yes, those are part of the solutions, and you want a combination of solutions across every city and town so that they're actually changing the dynamics of the whole city or town that needs to be a community.
See, those are good blueprints for other communities. You take a look at it, it's an association, so it's owned by the people, it's governed by the people there, they make the decisions. It's not like some landlord that bought the park and can set the rates, and they set the rates. And I know that if we do more stuff like that, where it's community involvement, associations, and things like that, it's going to be a lot better for the disabled and the senior population, especially with the tiny houses. They're so much more affordable. They can build them how you want them. They can make them handicap accessible. I really know that that's probably what the future is going to be with the housing market, with regular houses. And a lot of the seniors and disabled don't want to clean a big house.
Oh no,
that's why they want to move.
I was offered a bigger apartment than I'm in, and I said, no, I don't. I want it as small as possible.
Right.
I don't want to have to be doing this.
Right.
83, 82, when I moved
And a
in
lot of-
81, I don't want to be doing
Yeah,
that.
and a lot of these seniors are active. They don't want to spend all day cleaning the house. They want to do a quick clean and go be with their friends and do some traveling and things
Do
like
television shows.
that. Do television shows, personal projects and things like that. And I understand why, it's a big burden for seniors when they have a big house. And it's their choice, if they're happy and they want to stay in their house, it's great. But there's a lot of them that I talk to, and they're like, I wish I could downsize. I just, I'm here, I'm just going to, ask for help for the taxes or whatever. And that's the other thing I find is that, the seniors in that era were very proud people. They didn't ask for help. They went out and made it happen. They're the ones that, I'm going to make my own money. I don't need anybody else's money. And now they're faced with asking family and friends to help chip in for their taxes. And I think at some point it kind of hurts them in their heart because all these years they've been independent and they've had their own money. And now they have to reach out and ask.
I've been a working stiff my whole life. And the first time I had to ask for assistance, I had to be told, you have nothing to apologize for. Horrifying to me. And of course I came back to the Berkshires had to take care of my mother. But at the time I had bought a little co-op in Bridgeport, Connecticut. 1970 homes that were built for World War I workers. Beautiful little community, little brick and English garden, 257 units, a co-op. And so you paid your rent, and your rent covered the insurance, the taxes, the outside maintenance, your water. You had to pay your electricity and stuff like that. A little place, I don't know, 500 or 600.
Yeah, that's perfect.
A little room and a bathroom and a kitchen downstairs, 2 bedrooms upstairs. I thought it was going to be the rest of my life. Little backyard, a community. The only downside was if something major had to be done, everybody had to chip in.
Mhm.
But, you know, that's not a bad downsize, and
No.
they kept it in pretty good shape with slate roofs and little brick houses, and
Mhm.
you couldn't change any of that. And little areas where, you know, they had Christmas trees or whatever.
Yeah. Well, we had the gardens and things like that
Yeah.
in there. You know, a lot of this stuff from World War II. They had the Victory Gardens, so they had a
Mhm.
special, you know, designated area where they're growing their own fruits and vegetables, and you know, kind of circling back to that thing we're talking about with organic and things like
Yeah.
that. We, you know, between the housing and the food, we really have kind of disconnected ourselves from that. You know, it's so easy to go to the grocery store, you know, and you know, a lot of seniors too, you know, they do enjoy gardening and things like that, and they want to have a little spot to do that. But you know, to have this big garden, robust garden now, is just not, you know, something they can do, and part of the reason why they want to downsize, but they can't.
Yep. You have to accept the reality there if you're disabled,
Mhm.
trying things you cannot do that you still would like to be
Yeah.
able to do, but you have to adapt to what's going on. And of course, we cannot talk about housing. I don't know what affordability means, but I'm very, very concerned about the homelessness
Mm-hmm.
in the Berkshires and all across the country. And you can't just hide homeless people. You have to deal with the root causes of it and try to find solutions to that.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's tied into the health and homelessness and housing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know in your area if there's a lot of homelessness, but I know there is in the Berkshires, in Pittsfield, for example. And it distresses me when I see people standing in the median, and there has to be a solution to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the homeless population in the Berkshires, we have, I don't know what the exact number is, but I do see it. It's concerning to me because if these people are human beings too, and they obviously come from somewhere,
Yes.
they had some kind of skill set at one time. Some of the discussions I have with people that are involved with the rehab, because a lot of times addiction and homelessness kind of go hand in hand.
Yes.
Is, you know, especially the addiction thing, I know they do a great job getting these people clean and getting them straightened out, and you know, or helping the homeless, you know, try to find a job, and you know, try to rehabilitate them to some degree so that they can go out and try to do something. I think where we're faulting is that when you have somebody with an addiction, they're great at getting these people started and getting clean, but they don't have something after to look forward to, like a purpose. So one of the things I was sharing with some people in the area was, hey, you know, what if we were to do something like get some housing or something for them, like one of these abandoned houses that maybe have some good bones, and give them some purpose, because say, hey, if you want to put some sweat equity in this thing, you know, certainly can live here and it'll give you a leg up. And I've talked to other community members in North Adams where they're trying to set up a house for some of the homeless for about 6 to 8 beds, and they're going to have some programming for them as far as, you know, balancing a checkbook, you know, tying a tie,
Everyday skills.
the everyday skill sets, get them back to the basics. Is what I always like to say, is we got to get back to the basics.
Yes.
And get them in a nice routine, train them for a job interview, you know, help them out so when they're applying for jobs, they know how to apply for them, how to build a resume, what to expect in an interview. I think that's going to go a long way for people that don't have anything or have hopelessness, because there's people that
One of
care
the
about
things
it.
that really does need to be addressed,
Mhm.
and I think my grandmother and I were both, the Lewison houses at 149 Church Street, that was my grandmother's home. And I think she and I would both be very happy that it is now a place for formerly homeless people. But the one thing, addiction is a terrible illness, and if somebody slips, there are a lot of not a lot of programs that deal with what happens if somebody slips back into the illness that they're suffering, that they're not just pushed out. There has to be a step. One of the programs we've done many times is Second Chances in Pittsfield. And the Sheriff's Department, Tom Mueller, he's been on this program loads of times. They've done innovative programs, and one of those programs is Second Chance. And this is integrating formerly incarcerated people, and there are people who are suffering from addictions. Come out into the community and have just the support you're talking about, Scott.
Yeah, so. And that's wonderful, and I think that's something we need. And, you know, I had a conversation with this individual. He had, I'm not going to name any names, but
of course not.
He had slipped down a slippery slope. He had a lot of stuff happen in his life, lost a job, marriage, all that other stuff, and he got into alcoholism. And he told me a couple weeks ago, he's like, I just didn't want to live like this anymore. He had woken up to the fact that he's ruining his life, and he checked himself in. And I don't think, and what I'm going to say, I don't think people in general do this enough for people to have an addiction. But he told me a story, and I said, you know, so-and-so, I just want to let you know you're doing a good job. Keep going. Yep. And I handed my business card, and I said, please, if you feel like you're going to fall off the wagon or something, just give me a call. But just remember, you've come a long way. You know, and I think, again, like we were sharing before, that's great that you have second chances. As soon as they slip, the sooner we get them back in, get them back on track, the better, so you don't go down this spiral staircase again. And give them purpose and say, hey, you know, you are a human being. You've made you've made faults, just like all of us. But, you know, these people should be treated with dignity as well.
Absolutely.
And we should find something, like some kind of purpose for them, whether it's, again, like I said, hey, listen, we got some projects for you to do, you know, keep them busy.
Structure, I think, helps. Really.
Yeah, in a skill set, right? Let's find out, let's investigate what they did in their past. Hey, we're a mason. Did you do plumbing, electrical? What are you into? Oh, you were into fixing cars. Great. Let's pair them with maybe a shop that needs some help. I know a lot of automobile shops after COVID need help. You know, things like that, because you know, it's like having a sailboat. I think I shared this with you. It's like having a sailboat with no rudder. If as soon as you're in a straight line, as soon as the wind comes, it's going to blow you right off course. And you know, the rudder can be that purpose that they need to fulfill in their life. And we should be doing a lot more exploring of that.
And of course, in my own family, I've lost so many members to the horrible sickness of addiction. And even as recently as 2021, I lost my nephew with alcoholism and drug addiction. They're horrible, and they devastate families. And the person themselves has to come to the realization that they have to do something. Right. You can support them, but you can't fix it. They need it. You could be there for them. And so we know there are programs that are really doing the work. And I think all the things that we have been talking today are about solutions, of course, which you know about. So we're right down here to the end now. I'd like to know if you have a final thought, and maybe you'll consider coming back on Solutions Rising again, because I think you and I could talk all afternoon.
Yeah, we could definitely talk all afternoon. I like the subject matter today. You know, it's something that I truly believe in. You know, I have a grandmother that just turned 93, and you know, I look at the seniors and I think to myself, you know, that's somebody's grandmother, you know, and for me personally, I really want to help solve this problem with seniors. I don't ever want to have a senior feel like they don't have a place to live. That's the last thing, you know. You spent your years paying taxes, doing the right thing, and being good people, and you know, he came from, you know, one of the greatest generations that ever lived to now, you know, one step from being homeless. And I just don't think that's right. And as a community as a whole, you know, we should come together and try to fix this problem, because it is something, like you said, we're keep kicking the can down the road. Eventually, we're just not going to have a can to kick anymore.
That's right. That's right. it's going to drown in the water that's coming down
Yeah.
Main Street.
So we got, we have a lot of problems, but one of the things is that I'm committed to is the seniors, because we really need to figure this problem out.
And that goes down intergenerationally to connect
Yeah.
young people with seeing the dignity and the history they can learn from seniors too.
Absolutely.
So we can, maybe the next time we'll talk about education and intergenerational discussions.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of things, just to your point, on that subject matter, there's a lot of things I learned from my grandparents, stuff that's handed down, old tricks of the trade, so to speak, that you're just not going to find on YouTube. Like stuff from farmers and things that, easy solutions, practical solutions that don't require much work at all. So yes, we should be learning from our elders and taking advice.
And the fun of enjoying the stories each could share with them.
Oh yeah, the stories are
little
great.
children talking to someone. Thank you, Scott.
Yes, you're
Berglund,
welcome so much
for being on my program.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
And if each one of us picked up one problem and solved it, imagine the incredible view we would all have of solutions rising. Please be part of the solution. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.